on this? We're explaining the verse. He who gives money to the poor lends to the Lord. Isn't it interesting that God doesn't say, he who gives his money to the poor gives to the Lord? No, lends to the Lord. And the second half of that verse is, and he will pay him back whatever he's borrowed. That's a very interesting passage. But I want you to realize how heaven thinks about this. Heaven wants me to do it his way, not my way, to lend him money, then it's his money, that he can then deliver to the person who has the need. Let me tell you a story of how this actually worked years ago. My son and I, David, were in South Africa, and I was speaking to 12,000 people for a week at the Dome in Johannesburg. 6,000 religious leaders and 6,000 business leaders. And we were downlinking to another 100,000 people. At the end of the week, we were exhausted. I had spoken, 40 hours or something, and we were both craving some ice cream. And after Friday night was over, we rushed back to the hotel because there was a little restaurant in the lobby, and got there just before it closed, sat down in a booth and said to the waitress, "Ma'am, we would love to have a bowl of ice cream. Any kind is fine." And she said, "Oh, I'm sorry. The kitchen just closed, but I can give you some coffee if you'd like." And I looked at Dave, and he was leaned back, and you could see, oh no. And I said, "Ma'am, we just love ice cream. Is there any way possible you could find some back there?" And she saw the look on our face and realized we were father-son, and she says, "Okay, I'll go look." Well, she left, and as second she turned to walk away, a signal that I talked about earlier, one of those signals that God sends called the God nudge, instantly happened. As she turned and walked away, nudge. Give her some money. Just like that. Out of the blue. And I was thinking, oh man, how much money? And give her lots of money. And I said, man, I don't know if I'm going to do that. What am I going to do? You wrestle with a signal. Well, I was exhausted, and I leaned over to Dave and I said, "Dave, I think we're supposed to..." "Yeah, I know, Dad. We're supposed to give that lady a big tip." I said, "Dave, how'd you know that? Do you know how much? Do you know what for?" I was hoping maybe he was supposed to give his money, not me. And I said, "Dave, are you supposed to give it?" "No, Dad. You're supposed to give it." You know, that's the way sons are. Dad's supposed to give the money. So I sit back in the chair and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how much money am I supposed to give to this lady? What am I supposed to say to her? And I reach under the table into my pocket here. And I had been to the bank earlier last week and got a bunch of South African money called Rand. And I took out this little wad of Rand. It wasn't that little, actually. And I was looking at it under the table, thinking, God, how much you want me to give? God never tells you. He never does.